Let me start with the elephant in the room, the number that sounds so good, $100,000 per year. In 2026, this is considered a solid middle-class income in most American cities. Not rich, but comfortable. Secure. The kind of salary where you shouldn't be stressed about money, right? Wrong. So catastrophically wrong that I need to walk you through this with actual numbers. Because until you see it laid out, you won't believe how thoroughly you're getting screwed. Here's my gross income, $100,000. Sounds great, feels great to say. Now watch what happens when reality shows up to the party uninvited. Federal income tax in my bracket takes about $18,000. State income tax, I'm in a state with income tax because of course I am, takes another $5,000. Social Security grabs $6,200. Medicare wants $1,450. Before I've paid for a single thing in my actual life, I'm down to $69,350. That's a 30.65% haircut right off the top, and I haven't even touched my paycheck yet. But sure, Dad, I'm making six figures. Now let's talk about the thing that is absolutely destroying the American middle class in 2026. The silent killer that nobody wants to acknowledge. Fixed costs have gone completely insane. I'm not talking about luxuries. I'm not talking about wants. I'm talking about the basic, non-negotiable costs of being a functioning adult in this country. And they have inflated so far beyond wage growth that the middle class is essentially being hollowed out from the inside like a termite-infested house. My rent, because buying a house, we'll get to that joke later, is $2,100 per month for a two-bedroom apartment in a decent but not fancy neighborhood. Not downtown, not in some luxury building with a doorman, just a regular apartment where the dishwasher works most of the time and the neighbors are loud on weekends. $2,100 times 12 months equals $25,200 per year, just for the privilege of having a roof over my head. I'm down to $44,150. But housing isn't just rent, is it? No, because this is America in 2026 where everything costs more. I've got renter's insurance at $180 per year. Cheap, I know, but it's still money leaving my account. Utilities are another nightmare. Electricity, water, gas, trash, internet that actually works because I need it for my job. That's about $250 per month or $3,000 per year. We're at $40,970 remaining. Transportation. Oh boy, transportation. I drive a 2015 Honda Civic that I bought used because I'm not an idiot. But even being smart about it, this car costs me a fortune. Car payment? Paid off, thank God. But insurance in 2026 is $1,800 per year. Because apparently my perfect driving record means nothing to insurance companies who just decided they needed more profit. Gas prices have been dancing around $4.20 per gallon, and I commute 40 minutes each way to work. Because, again, I can't afford to live closer. That's roughly $300 per month or $3,600 per year. Maintenance, oil changes, that terrifying moment when the check engine light comes on, I budget $1,200 per year. Total transportation, $6,600, down to $34,370. Healthcare. The American dream, right? I have employer-sponsored health insurance, which means I'm lucky. My premiums are $2,400 per year for a plan with a $3,000 deductible that covers almost nothing. So I budget another $2,000 for actual healthcare costs. Co-pays, prescriptions, dental cleaning. New glasses because my eyes are getting worse from staring at screens all day. That's $4,400 total. We're at $29,970. Food. The thing you need to live, groceries in 2026 are genuinely offensive. A dozen eggs cost $5 when they're on sale. A pound of ground beef is $7. A bag of basic lettuce is $4 and half of it is brown by the time you get it home. I'm not eating fancy. I'm not ordering DoorDash every night. I cook at home. I buy generic brands. I shop sales and I still spend $450 per month on groceries. That's $5,400 per year, down to $24,570. But eating only happens at home if you're a robot. I'm a human who occasionally needs to grab lunch at work. Because I forgot my sad desk salad, who occasionally meets friends for dinner because isolation is bad. Who occasionally orders pizza on a Friday because I'm too exhausted to cook. I budget $200 per month for eating out, which is modest by American standards. That's $2,400 per year. We're at $22,170. Student loans, the gift that keeps on taking. I owe $45,000 at 6.5% interest. On loans that paid for a degree that qualified me for this good job that barely covers my bills. My payment is $480 per month or $5,760 per year, and most of that is interest. So I'm basically renting my education down to $16,410. Now let's talk about all the other little costs that add up like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Phone bill, $85 per month, $1,020 per year. Streaming services because cable is dead. And I'm not living like a hermit. Netflix, Spotify, maybe one other service, about $35 per month, $420 per year. Clothing and basic household items, toilet paper, soap, toothpaste, the occasional new shirt when old ones wear out, $1,200 per year minimum. We're down to $13,770. And here's where it gets really fun. I haven't saved anything for retirement yet. I haven't built an emergency fund. I haven't saved for a house down payment. I haven't taken a vacation. I haven't had a medical emergency. I haven't had my car break down in a major way. I haven't helped a family member in need. I haven't done anything except exist as a working adult with no dependents, no pets, no expensive hobbies. No debt except student loans, and I've got $13,770 left for the entire year. That's $1,147.50 per month of discretionary income from a six-figure salary. Except it's not really discretionary, is it? Because I need to save something for emergencies. I need to contribute something to my 401k or I'll be eating cat food when I'm 70. I need to maintain some kind of social life or I'll go insane. I need to occasionally replace things that break. And if anything at all, goes wrong, I'm immediately in trouble. This is the reality check that needs to slap every smug boomer who tells you to just work harder across the face. A $100,000 salary in 2026 is not wealthy. In many expensive cities, it's barely middle class. In some cities, it's actually struggling. And this isn't because people making this money are irresponsible. It's because the cost of basic existence has increased exponentially while wages have crept up linearly, creating a gap that's swallowing the middle class whole. You want numbers? Fine. According to 2026 data, the median household income in the United States is around $78,000. Sounds okay until you realize that median housing costs have increased by 47% since 2019, while median wages have increased by only 22%. Healthcare costs are up 31%. Food costs are up 28%. Education costs are up 35%. The math doesn't math. Your grandparents bought houses on single incomes and raised families because a house costs 2 to 3 times their annual salary. Now a house costs 6 to 8 times your annual salary and you need 2 incomes just to qualify for the mortgage. Assuming you can somehow save a down payment while paying rent, that's 35 to 40% of your take-home pay. The game changed. Nobody told us. And now we're all sitting here wondering why we feel broke, despite making good money. While older generations look at our salaries and think we're complaining about nothing. They don't see the invisible weight we're carrying. They don't feel the pressure of fixed costs that have grown like cancer while wages have barely budged. They got theirs when the getting was good. And now they're confused why we can't do the same thing with a playbook that's been obsolete for 20 years. The diagnosis. So how did we get here? How did 6 figures become the new broke? Let me walk you through the con job, because that's what it is. A slow-motion con that's been running for decades, while we were all too busy working to notice. First, let's talk about inflation, but not the boring textbook kind. I'm talking about the real, lived experience of watching your money buy less and less every single year, while your paycheck barely moves. The Federal Reserve will tell you inflation has been around 3% annually, which sounds manageable, almost cute, but that's the average, the weighted average. The number they calculate using a basket of goods that includes things like computers and TVS that actually got cheaper, while completely underweighting the things that actually matter to survival. Here's what real inflation looks like for regular people. Housing costs have been inflating at 6 to 8% per year. Healthcare costs 5 to 7% per year. Education 6% per year. Food 4 to 5% per year. The things you absolutely cannot avoid, shelter, health, food, are inflating at double or triple the official rate, while your boss gives you a 2% annual raise and acts like he's doing you a favor. This is how you end up running backwards financially while being told you're making progress. Let me give you a concrete example that made me want to punch a wall. In 2000, the median home price in the U.S. was $169,000. The median household income was $42,000. That's a ratio of about 4 to 1. If you saved diligently and had decent credit, you could realistically buy a house. Fast forward to 2026. Median home price is around $420,000. Median household income is $78,000. That ratio? About 5.4 to 1, and that's being generous, but it's worse than that. Because interest rates in 2000 were around 8%, but houses were cheaper. In 2026, even with rates around 6.5%, you're borrowing way more principal. Your monthly payment on that median home with 20% down is around $2,700 per month. On a $78,000 household income, that's 41% of your gross income, way above the 28% that's considered affordable. And that's assuming you somehow saved $84,000 for a down payment while paying rent. You see the scam now? The American dream didn't die because we got lazy. It died because the math stopped working, but everyone kept pretending it did. The second part of this diagnosis is wage stagnation dressed up as progress. Your employer will brag about giving you a 3% raise every year. Cost of living adjustment, they call it. Sounds responsible, except when your actual cost of living is increasing by 5 to 7% per year for the things that matter. A 3% raise is a pay cut. You're getting poorer every year in real terms while being told you should be grateful. And if you dare complain, some HR person will send you a pie chart showing how competitive your total compensation is. When they include health insurance that barely works and 401k matching that won't vest for 3 years. Here's a fun exercise I did that made me irrationally angry. I calculated what my salary would need to be to have the same purchasing power my parents had at my age. My dad made $45,000 in 1995. Adjusting for official inflation, that's about $90,000 in 2026 dollars. But adjusting for real inflation in the costs that actually matter, housing, healthcare, education, that's closer to $120,000. So, despite making 6 figures, I'm effectively earning 15 to 20% less than my dad did at my age. But I'm supposed to be grateful because the number looks bigger. The third part of this diagnosis is the financialization of everything. Everything in American life has been turned into a profit extraction mechanism. Need a place to live? We turned housing into an investment vehicle and let corporations and foreign money buy up entire neighborhoods, turning homes into assets that must appreciate, rather than places where people live. Need health care? We let insurance companies insert themselves between you and your doctor to extract profit from your suffering. Need education? We let universities charge whatever they want because we made the loans easy to get and impossible to discharge, creating a generation of indentured servants with fancy diplomas. Need to get around? We built cities that require cars, then let insurance companies and oil companies extract rent from your transportation needs. Every basic human need has been monetized and optimized for profit extraction, not human welfare. And we wonder why people making $100,000 feel broke. It's because every single day you're being bled by 1,000 small cuts, each one justified by market forces, and that's just how it works. While the people at the top of these extraction chains post record profits quarter after quarter. But here's the really insidious part. The thing that makes me the angriest. They convinced us it's our fault. Can't afford a house. You probably spend too much on lattes. Drowning in student debt? Should have chosen a better major. Can't save for retirement? You need to budget better. The entire media apparatus, the financial advice industry, the self-help gurus, they all point the finger at individual choices while ignoring the systematic problems that make those choices nearly impossible. You know what drives me crazy? Those articles that say, here's how to retire a millionaire on a $50,000 salary. They always have the same advice. Stop buying coffee out, bring your lunch to work, cut your cable, invest 20% of your income in index funds. And you read it and think, maybe I'm just bad with money, but then you do the math on your actual life. And you realize that even if you did all those things perfectly, you're still barely treading water. Because the fundamental costs of existence have outpaced income growth by so much that no amount of coupon clipping and coffee brewing is going to fix it. The old advice failed, not because it was wrong in principle, but because the economic context it was built for doesn't exist anymore. When your parents were told to save 10% of their income and they'd be fine, that was possible because the other 90% actually covered their basic needs with room to spare. When you're told to save 10% of your income in 2026, you're already spending 75% on absolute necessities. Before you even think about having a life, And that remaining 15% has to cover everything from car repairs to birthday gifts to the occasional moment of joy that makes this whole grind worthwhile. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. It's just not designed for us. It's designed to extract maximum value from our labor while returning minimum compensation, to keep us running on the hamster wheel forever, to ensure that the wealth we generate flows upward to people who already have more than they could spend in 10 lifetimes. And the genius of it is that they've convinced us to blame ourselves for our own exploitation. The solution. All right, enough yapping about what's wrong. If you've made it this far, you're probably either depressed or angry or both, and you're wondering if there's any point to any of this. I get it. I feel it too, but here's the thing. Understanding the problem doesn't fix it, but it does give you a clearer picture of what you're actually fighting against. And while I can't change the entire American economic system from my kitchen table at midnight, believe me, I would if I could. I can tell you what I'm doing to survive this mess. And maybe some of it will help you too. This isn't 5 tricks to get rich quick. This isn't just start a side hustle. This is a common sense survival guide for people who are tired of being told they're doing it wrong when the game itself is rigged. This is what I'm trying to do so I don't wake up at 65 with nothing but regrets and a social security check. That won't cover my rent. Step 1, get brutally honest about your numbers and stop comparing yourself to anyone else's highlight reel. First thing you need to do is what I did tonight, a financial autopsy. Take 1 month, just one, and track every single dollar that comes in and goes out. Not to judge yourself, not to feel bad, just to see the truth. Write down your actual take-home pay after taxes, write down your actual fixed costs. Rent, utilities, insurance, debt payments, all of it. Write down your variable costs, food, gas, the random stuff. Calculate what's left. Most people have never done this exercise and it shows. Here's why this matters. You cannot fix a problem you haven't measured. You're flying blind, wondering why you're always broke, but you've never actually seen where the money goes. Because looking at it is too painful. I get that. I avoided this for years. But ignorance isn't bliss when you're the one suffering the consequences. When you do this, you'll probably discover a few things. First, your fixed costs are way higher than you thought. Second, you're spending more on small stuff than you realized, but not enough to explain why you're broke. That $5 coffee twice a week isn't why you can't afford a house. Your rent being 40% of your take-home pay is why you can't afford a house. Don't let anyone shame you for small pleasures when the big structural costs are what's actually killing you. Third, and this is the one that hurts, you'll see how little control you actually have. Most of your money is spoken for before you even get it. This isn't a personal failure. This is the economic reality of being middle class in 2026. But seeing it clearly means you can stop blaming yourself for systemic problems and start focusing your energy on the things you actually can control. And for the love of everything, stop comparing your financial situation to what you see on social media. That couple who just bought a house, they probably had help from parents. That friend who seems to travel constantly could be credit card debt, could be inheritance, could be OnlyFans. You don't know, and it doesn't matter because their situation has nothing to do with yours. The comparison game will make you miserable and convince you that you're failing when you're actually doing fine. Given your circumstances, step 2, play defense first, then offense. Build your moat before you build your castle. This is where most financial advice goes wrong. Everyone wants to tell you how to invest, how to make your money grow, how to pick stocks or real estate or crypto. But here's what they don't tell you. None of that matters. If one medical emergency or car breakdown or job loss wipes you out completely, you can't build wealth without a foundation, and the foundation is defense. Your first financial goal isn't to get rich. It's to not be destroyed by normal life events. That means building an emergency fund, and I know you're thinking, with what money? Trust me, I hear you. But this is non-negotiable. Even if you can only save $50 per month, do it. Put it in a separate savings account that you pretend doesn't exist unless there's an actual emergency. Define emergency, strictly, job loss, medical crisis, car breakdown that prevents you from getting to work. Major home repair if you own. Not, I really want this thing on sale. Not, my friends are going on a trip. Emergencies only. Your goal is 3 months of essential expenses. Not 3 months of your current spending, 3 months of the absolute bare minimum to survive. Rent, food, utilities, minimum debt payments. For most people, that's $6,000 to $10,000. It sounds impossible, but here's the truth. Having even $1,000 saved completely changes your stress level. It's the difference between a crisis and an inconvenience. While you're building this, pay off any high-interest debt, credit cards, payday loans, any debt above 8% interest. This is your financial house on fire. You don't redecorate while your house is burning. Minimum payments on everything else, avalanche method on the high-interest stuff. Why? Because paying 22% interest on credit card debt is like trying to swim with an anchor tied to your legs. Every dollar you put toward that debt is a guaranteed 22% return, which is better than any investment. Only after you have your emergency fund and your high-interest debt gone do you start thinking about building wealth. This might take years. That's okay. Slow and steady beats fast and reckless every single time. I know people who tried to invest before they were ready and ended up selling their investments at a loss. To cover an emergency, don't be that person. Step 3. Automate your survival and invest like you're dead inside, because emotional investing is how you go broke. Once you've got your foundation, it's time to build wealth, and I'm going to tell you the most boring, unsexy advice you've ever heard. Invest in low-cost index funds through your 401k and IRA. And never look at it. That's it. That's the whole strategy. No stock picking, no crypto gambling. No real estate seminars, just boring, automatic, long-term index fund investing. Here's why this works. You are not smarter than the market. I'm not smarter than the market. Nobody you know is smarter than the market, the professionals who do this for a living, with teams of analysts and sophisticated algorithms, cannot consistently beat the market. So why would you be able to? The answer is you can't, and trying to is how you lose money. Set up automatic contributions to your 401k, at least enough to get your full employer match. That's free money, take it. Then set up automatic contributions to a Roth IRA if you're eligible, or a traditional IRA if you're not. The money comes out before you see it, goes into a target date fund, or a 3-fund portfolio, and you forget about it. You don't check it during market crashes. You don't try to time the market. You certainly don't panic sell when things look scary. I know this sounds too simple. It sounds like it can't possibly work. But compound interest over 30 to 40 years is the closest thing we have to magic. If you invest $500 per month starting at age 30, assuming average market returns of 7% after inflation, you'll have around $600,000 by age 65. That's not retire to a mansion money, but it's not eat cat food money, which is the goal. The key is automation and emotional detachment. If you have to manually decide to invest every month, you won't do it when things are tight or scary. If you actively manage your investments, you'll make emotional decisions that cost you money. The best investors are either dead or forgot they had accounts. Be like them. Set it and forget it. One more thing. If your employer offers an HSA, health savings account, max that out too. It's the most tax-advantaged account that exists. Tax-free contributions, tax-free growth, tax-free withdrawals. For medical expenses, you'll have medical expenses eventually. This is how you pay for them without going broke. Now, here's the part where I tell you this strategy is painfully slow and you probably won't feel rich, even if you do everything right. That $600,000 I mentioned? Sounds like a lot until you realize that in 35 years, with inflation, it'll have the purchasing power of maybe $350,000 in today's dollars. You're not building wealth to be wealthy. You're building wealth to not be poor when you're old. Lower your expectations accordingly. The brutal truth is that for most people reading this, real wealth, the kind where you don't worry about money, is either inherited, involves extraordinary luck, or requires sacrifices that most people aren't willing to make. You can work 60-hour weeks and start businesses, and hustle yourself into an early grave, and maybe you'll make it, but probably you won't. The odds are against you by design. What you can do is play the game intelligently enough to survive it with dignity. Build your moat, live below your means even when it sucks. Invest automatically and boringly. Don't fall for scams. Don't compare yourself to people who had different starting conditions. Accept that the system is rigged, but play the hand you're dealt as well as you can. And most importantly, stop believing that your worth as a person is tied to your net worth. The richest people I know are miserable. The happiest people I know have figured out how to find contentment with less. This isn't about accepting poverty or giving up on improving your situation. It's about recognizing that the pursuit of wealth in a system designed to extract it from you is a losing game. And the only way to win is to redefine what winning means. I'm still figuring this out. I still get anxious looking at my bank account. I still feel behind, still feel like I should have more to show for working as hard as I have. But I've also stopped believing the lie that it's all my fault, and that mental shift alone has been worth more than any 3% raise. You're not broke because you're bad with money. You're broke because making six figures in 2026 is the equivalent of making $45,000 in 1995. But nobody bothered to update the narrative. The game changed. Now you know, play accordingly. And if you need me, I'll be over here at my kitchen table, drinking cheap beer and running the numbers one more time. Because that's what we do. We survive. We adapt. We keep going, even when the math looks impossible. Because what else are you going to do? Give up? That's what they want. Don't give them the satisfaction. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to see if I can shave $20 off my grocery budget this month, so I can pretend I'm making progress. This is the dream, folks. This is what six figures buys you in America 2026. Welcome to the new middle class, where everyone's broke and nobody knows why except those of us who actually did the math. Cheers to that, I guess. Now go automate your savings and try not to think about it too hard. Because if you think about it too hard, you'll realize how absurd this all is and you won't be able to sleep. Trust me on that one.